President Cyril Ramaphosa is due to welcome African education ministers at a high-level dialogue of the Association for Development of Education in Africa. The two-day forum is taking place today and tomorrow in Johannesburg. Besides education ministers, the event is also attended by academics, unionists, teachers, members of civil society and the youth. For more on this story, let's cross now live to the event.
Senior officials in education, members of the diplomatic corps, and representatives of a number of corporate companies who are here, then ladies and gentlemen. What the minister did not tell you is that we went to school together. And I will not tell you who performed better at school. It is indeed an honor to be here, to be amongst you. We are honored that all of you have taken time to be amongst us, and that we've been granted this opportunity to host this high-level annual policy dialogue forum as we, as South Africa, are celebrating 25 years of our freedom and our democracy. For us, the advent of democracy, which brought about a host of progressive things for our people and our country, the creation of a single education system, was a major achievement towards restoring the dignity of millions of South Africans who had been denied quality education during centuries of colonialism and the decades of apartheid. This forum's focus on preparing the youth for the work of the future reflects our understanding that Africa's demographic dividend can only be earned through our investment in the continent's highest yielding resource, its young people. I'm confident that the breadth, the depth, and the quality of discussion over the coming days that you are going to have will ultimately enrich the development of our continent's human capital and move us closer to the realization of the AU's Agenda 2063. We hope to share and learn from other countries on how to address the challenges that lie ahead. Africa has a large proportion of young people who are under 25 years. They constitute about a fifth of all people under 25 years in the world. Furthermore, research shows that 37% of the 600 million labor force in sub-Saharan Africa is also under 25 years. This is a great advantage for our continent, considering that we are the most developed, that most developed countries are aging. They need young people to work and to grow their economies while contributing to taxes to subsidize social programs for the elderly. We in Africa can use this demographic dividend if we develop education systems that are capable, that are also accessible, but more importantly, that are focused. Unfortunately, our economies are unable to absorb a significant proportion of these young people, mainly because the education system is not aligned to the needs of the economies on our continent. The unemployment rate among young people is around twice that of adults. Significantly, most unemployed young people across Africa are those who have completed secondary or tertiary education. Unemployment is lower among those who have little to no education. You may ask, how is this so? Agriculture is the largest employer, and for now, it is labor-intensive and requires workers who, in most cases, do not have any education. Those who complete a secondary or tertiary education are finding it difficult to secure employment. And this is the case in many countries on our continent. Among other things, this is due to the mismatch of the skills people learn and the needs of the market. With the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, there is danger that this mismatch will just continue to grow. Due to the skills deficit, our countries are ill-prepared for the technological change that beckons. We therefore need to change the direction of secondary school education if we are to develop relevant skills for the new type of economies that are emerging in most of our countries. The 4IR is also disrupting the labor market in many, many ways, and it is doing so very quickly. The impetus for economic activity is shifting from very large enterprises to smaller individual-led companies. As entrepreneurs grow and double, we're finding that they are moving more and more to starting smaller and smaller companies. The manufacturing sector, for instance, while still a significant growth driver, is not generating as many jobs as it did in previous years. We see more jobless growth because of the use of technology to replace workers. These changes have an impact on the nature of the skills that are required by growing and emerging companies. Young people need foundational cognitive skills in science, in technology, engineering, and mathematics, the so-called STEM skills, to be absorbed into economies. As agreed in Agenda 2063, of those who enter tertiary education institutions, 70% ideally should graduate in STEM subjects. Digital skills such as coding are essential to integration in the world of work. Such skills should be accompanied by soft skills such as emotional intelligence, interpersonal skills, and excellent communicating skills. Instead of rote learning, the World Bank suggests that young people need skills in unstructured problem solving and reasoning. Critical thinking skills are what will drive job creation and economic growth in the future. We must therefore change our educational systems to develop the types of skills that emerging economies are going to require. Africa is expected to be the food basket of the world because of its geographic position and climate and a large population of young people. The World Bank estimates our agricultural market will be producing food and beverage worth $1 trillion by 2030. Given that 205 million people in Africa work in the farming sector, we need to ensure that our secondary schools focus on agricultural technology. We need to ensure that young people can both read to understand and apply knowledge in the areas of agro-processing, beneficiation of fresh produce, and standards required for food export. Young people must have skills focusing on the agricultural value chain. The second largest source of jobs in Africa is the service sector, which has estimated which is estimated to employ well over 100 million people in 2015. This sector includes information, communication, and technology. The sector also includes customer services, sales and human resources in areas such as entertainment, restaurants, tourism, and transport. These areas are likely to grow. Therefore, young people need both technical skills as well as soft skills. We need to overcome some barriers in Africa if we want Africa to create jobs for the future. First, we need to have education, or rather educators, who are skilled to function in the modern economy. Many of our teachers were taught in the old system of rote learning. Often they are not able to use advanced tools, the new tools of the trade such as computers. Most were not trained to apply knowledge but were taught to accumulate knowledge. In today's world, information and knowledge is quite simply abundant. The key is to apply the knowledge we have in order to solve problems. Second, our educators need to know how to develop a curriculum that is relevant to the needs of the economy. They should work in partnership with the private sector to design and implement a curriculum that augments the basic foundational skills. Successful countries are those that ensure that the skills they produce are the skills that are appropriate for industrial use. After all, the private sector will be the recipient of many of these secondary school graduates. Therefore, they need to absorb the graduates much more easily. Not every learner is qualified to pursue the academic track. Countries in which 50% of their learners enter technical colleges to develop artisan skills have lower youth unemployment rates than where the overwhelming majority enter tertiary educational institutions. The assumption that we often make that every learner is destined to enter the tertiary education sector does need to be re-examined, and our secondary education system also needs to be restructured accordingly. Our schools need to form part of a comprehensive society-wide response to the challenges as well as the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution. Rapid technological advances are already having significant consequences for workers and communities, with digitization and mechanization of work processes giving rise to increased insecurity. The fourth industrial revolution is our current reality, and it waits for no man, no woman, but it also does not wait for any government. It doesn't wait for a learner or a student or an employer or a trade union. It just happens as it happens. The fourth industrial revolution, therefore, is something that we've got to grasp, and we've got to grasp it now. As we respond to the challenges of 4IR, we should, as a continent and as a global community, put people at the heart of economic and social policy as well as business practices. There are remarkable opportunities, but also enormous challenges that are emerging from the dynamic forces that are transforming the world of work. To help global society navigate these challenges and opportunities, we need to invest in the capabilities of our people. Secondary school occupies a crucial role in our effort to set the people of our continent on a path to a sustainable and inclusive development that will benefit all of humanity. Secondary school also intervenes in young people's lives at a time when they are most energized but also most vulnerable and to adverse social influences. Secondary school education empowers young people at a time when they are most hopeful, when they are also most experimental and flexible in their lives, and we should embrace this life stage as one to empower young people to take charge of their lives and on our collective future as well. But this means getting the basics right earlier in their lives. Without realizing these goals, we stand no chance whatsoever of succeeding in this new revolution that is unfolding, or of shifting from being a continent of consumers to being a continent of innovators and also a continent of inventors. I forever remember the conversation that I had with a European gentleman who has since passed away, who said he has done a thorough analysis of how African countries can advance when it comes to growing their economies. And he did a global analysis, and he said, you know, Europe played a key role in the first industrial revolution. They manufactured machines, the locomotive, and what have you. And he said, Asian countries are now leading in making semiconductors and what have you, and computers. And he said, when I look at Africa, I think what you should do as Africans, you must focus on what Providence has bequeathed you, and that is your animals. And he says, Providence has given you a great wealth, which we in Europe decimated over many years. You have animals. He said, forget about semiconductors and computers. Just focus on your animals. I looked at him and I thought he was joking, and he was serious. In other words, he was saying, you will never be innovators, you will never be inventors. And this Africa Rising concept means that we are proving him wrong, because our young people are becoming innovators, they are becoming inventors. And your task in the education field is to open more opportunities, more chances for our young people to become the innovators, so that we can prove this European gentleman who's since passed away wrong. It is this revolution that we must grasp, because we are a continent that should not only be consuming technology, but we should be innovating. We should be creating technology. We should be the great creators, particularly in this fourth industrial revolution. We have also committed that we will set our sights on the furthest horizon. And this is what we should be doing as the African continent. This does not mean living in denial of the challenges that affect us, but implementing realistic and far-reaching solutions to address them. As host and participant in this forum, South Africa stands to learn and to gain a great deal from the discussions that you are going to have here. And we are truly thankful that this dialogue has come here to our country. And we look forward to the outcomes of this forum as an impetus for changing the fortunes of young Africans not only in our own country, but on the whole continent. And therefore, this will be a great benefit to the fortunes of humanity and society on our continent. With those words, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you and I thank you for being here. I am just sorry that the duties that one has of party and state dictate that I should be elsewhere. If you were to ask me, I would rather be here than going where I am going now. Thank you very much.